Hi, this is Paul McGuire, and you are watching a prophetic emergency alert. Now, the number one thing we're going to analyze through the lens of Bible prophecy or a biblical worldview will be the dynamics of the election in the United States of America. From this standpoint, what is happening in America now, the way this election is resolved, etc., how it is processed, it is creating a precedent for all future elections in the United States. And that simply means to you and me that what is happening right now in terms of laws, policies, procedures, it is going to create a pathway into the future for every American, a pathway that goes into the future in which there is no turning back. Now, if certain things lock into place now, then there will be the possibility of rolling things back or turning back. But you see, we have dodged the bullet, so to speak, for decade after decade in America, for the last 125 years especially. And we have been moving towards this moment with lightning speed. I have on the desk next to me volumes, the complete volumes of Dr. Francis Schaeffer, the greatest evangelical theologian in history. And Dr. Schaeffer warned 35 years ago, before he passed away to be with the Lord, Dr. Schaeffer warned that the accommodation, the spiritual accommodation of the so-called Bible-believing church would open the doors to the Trojan horse of radical socialism, and it would create an environment in which America would inevitably move into a Marxist, socialist, totalitarian regime. And once those laws and once those rules and regulations of totalitarianism are put into place, Schaeffer warned and others warned, there will be, if the measurements and laws of a totalitarian regime are allowed to be put into place as they are now here in the United States of America, there will be no turning back, because once these laws of totalitarianism are implemented, you can't undo them. Because you see things like your vote go out the window. We the people goes out the window. Your constitutional rights, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights. Just in the Declaration of Independence, where it says this: for the Creator, capital C, for the Creator has given us certain inalienable rights, such as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that concept simply means, and that concept, that truth comes right from the Pilgrims and Puritans who founded America. And it basically means that only God, the Creator, capital C, has the authority, only God has the authority to give men their rights. And no puny government, no dictatorship, no human ruler has the right to steal from the people what only God can give them. And then our Bill of Rights, which again flowed directly out of the foundation of the Old and New Testament from the Pilgrims and Puritans. It created a Bill of Rights in which we have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, the right to assemble and gather, freedom from unreasonable search and seizure, and many other laws. We have all these freedoms, but every one of those freedoms is under militant assault at this very moment. Let's take a critical one. Because we are losing very quickly what could be called freedom of the press in America. We're losing that. Even as we speak, we're losing our right to have freedom of the press and freedom of speech and freedom of religion, and they all go together. This is the reason why. When I was first writing books, and I've written 34 books, when I was first doing research and stuff like that, this was before the days of the internet, for crying out loud, where you had to go to the public library, and nobody had cell phones back then, man. It seems like a million years ago. And nobody had cell phones, and you had to have a big pocket filled with coins so you could use the public phone, the phone booth. And if you wanted to get a copy of an article or find out about a book, man, it was hard. It was like climbing one of the Himalayan mountains. I mean, literally, if you to be a researcher or a writer, which is a lot of what I do, I'm an author. I mean, I was always looking for books, magazines, articles, and they were hard to get. Today, although I will say this, prior to 2016, almost anybody could get on the internet, and within minutes, if you knew how to really use the search engines, you could get to just about any source, any document, any article. And what used to take people like me months takes seconds, and plus there's almost an infinite amount of sources on the internet. But a big problem happened when Trump started to run for the election, and then while he was running for the election, all the big media, all the big tech companies, they began to lock down the internet with algorithms, which are computer programs that secretly direct the flow of traffic on the internet, or hide things or promote things. And so starting in 2016, I began to realize it's not so easy to find stuff on the internet. There's tons of important stuff, but there's blockades done through artificial intelligence. Now, if you know exactly how to get there, which most people don't, because that's not what they do for a living, then you can find stuff. But they are, every day as we speak, they're eroding the amount of real truth you can get by censoring stuff by the big tech companies, the search engine companies, etc., etc. So, because we're living in an environment where freedom of speech and control of all media, including the internet, is like Big Brother right now, we're not, as citizens of the United States, we're not hearing the feedback, we're not hearing the truth we should be hearing about any given topic. Because regarding this is freedom of speech, and any given topic, there should be a variety of opinions. When you have an Orwellian control system, because right now you only have 3 multinational corporations that control all of the mainstream news media, just 3 multinational corporations. Like I said, when I began researching and writing books early in my career, I remember there was like 245 different owners of mainstream media, national magazines, huge newspapers, radio stations, TV stations. Okay, 245 different owners. So that gave you a diversity of opinion. You had conservative media, you had liberal media, and you had checks and balances. But as time moved forward to where we are right now, it went from 240 different multinational corporations owning our media. It went to like 100 corporations owning our media. And now, where we are right now, it's just three giant globalist elite multinational corporations or globalist corporations control all of our media. That's why the opinion, the thinking, the belief system, the indoctrination, the point of view is always the same. It doesn't matter who you're going in on it, which search engine company you use, what entertainment company it is, what news outlet it is. They're all going to repeat the same mantra over and over again. You don't get any diversity of opinion, and you also don't get truth. Remember, in George Orwell's novel, 1984, which I read at 15 years old in public school, in George Orwell's 1984, there's a futuristic, now the date is in the past, but we're deep into Orwell's world. There, in the novel 1984, George Orwell wrote about a nightmarish workers' paradise. You know, they promised the people you're going to have a workers' paradise, and what they got was hell on earth, ruled by a totalitarian dictatorship, Big Brother. And the way he ruled the people is he used mass surveillance. He spied on them constantly, and he especially spied on them through their television sets. He used all kinds of mind control technology and mind control techniques to brainwash all the people in 1984. So subliminally, they would receive messages like, freedom is slavery, you know, pain is pleasure, and these words, which are actually irrational words, but you're programmed to believe the opposite of what the truth is. So, for example, if you're programming people with the words freedom is slavery, freedom is not slavery, but to the brainwashed person it is. And then you use fear, the fear of terrorism and mass surveillance, and you lock down a gigantic nation and you lock down the rest of the world. Now, Orwell's warning has become true because it is time for every person who's an American, every person who's a Christian, to understand that at this particular moment in history, that we are in an all-out war between freedom and totalitarianism. And the mechanisms of totalitarianism, whether the people involved in it know it or not, the mechanisms of totalitarianism are the ideologies of Marxism, radical socialism, communism. Those belief systems are the strategies to create a totalitarian dictatorship like a big brother government. That's where we are. And once we cross the bridge into that world, there's no coming back. And we need to remember that at its core, communism, Marxism, and socialism is energized by the spirit of the Antichrist. It represents a stronghold in the mind that's energized by a spirit of Antichrist. And without exception, the very highest level communist leaders in history, like Karl Marx and others, a number of prominent historians did research on what motivated communist leaders like Lenin and Stalin and Karl Marx and guys like that. And they discovered that they weren't driven by creating a workers' paradise. They weren't driven by implementing social justice. They weren't driven by creating a utopia on earth. What set them on fire as individuals is they had a passionate, all-consuming hatred towards Christianity, Jesus Christ, religion, and the Bible. And what motivated them above everything, all these historical communist leaders, was this bloodlust desire to destroy Christianity. That's why Karl Marx was a practicing Satanist. His sister was a head of a satanic church. And you find similar things among communist leaders who publicly pretend to be atheists, but secretly are occultists and Satanists. So, we have to understand that beneath the physical and the mental battle of communism, we have the psychological battle and the spiritual battle behind communism. Because what is communism? Communism is a religion. It's a satanic religion. It's a religion which does not believe in God. It's a religion which does not believe we were created by God. It's a religion which totally rejects any concept of Judeo-Christian biblical morality, any idea of a wrong or a right. It despises the family. It rejects all prohibitions on total sexual immorality, and it justifies communism, Marxism, and socialism. They have a slogan called "by any means necessary." So they have given themselves permission to murder, kill, destroy, lie, cheat, do anything evil under the sun. It's perfectly okay as long as you're furthering the communist revolution. So what you have to understand is when you're dealing with these people in any battle, whether it's political or whatever it is, cultural, they are operating from an entirely different mindset and perspective and worldview than they are. If you don't understand that, you are, roadkill. You're going to be, and which most Christians don't, and they are roadkill. Pastors especially, and again, I'm not trying to be disparaging, they have no idea that the wolf is not only at the door, the wolf is in the middle of their own denomination and congregations with things like critical race theory, which is a communist strategy. And I'm not saying that for the purpose of whipping up counterfeit hysteria. It's a historical truth when you know what critical theory is. I talk about that in my books at paulmcguire.us, especially the last number of books, which you can get discounts at, book bundles at paulmcguire.us. But the basic thrust is that here's the secret people don't know about communism, Marxism, and socialism. And I'm going to share with you the secret. But it's up to you, though, to do the rest of the research. I mean, I can help you if you want to get my books that explain it. I'm going to give you just the basic, because that's all we have time for. I'm going to give you the basic principle, but it's up to you to expand your knowledge. Okay, here is the truth that very, very, very few people know. And they don't know it because of intellectual bias, intellectual prejudice. They dismiss such talk erroneously as a conspiracy theory. But the bottom line is this, that communism or Marxism or radical socialism is really a mechanism to totally steal the wealth from any given nation, to make the people work at slave labor wages, to create a totalitarian regime, to take control of the government, the people, the natural resources, and not for the purpose of wealth redistribution. But it's a means where the globalist elite, the wealthiest and most powerful people in the world, they use the mechanism of communism, Marxism, and socialism to rape and plunder and totally dominate and crush any nation they want. And they repeat the process over and over again. And that's probably the biggest secret. It's the biggest secret that you'll never hear and never discussed, but it's true. It's true. If you get my book, The Day the Dollar Died, I go through the whole history of the international banking system. Because the international banking system, which consists of super capitalists, they are the ones that have funded, financed, organized every communist, Marxist, and socialist revolution. Why would they do that? If you're naive or sucker punched, or you have drunk the Kool-Aid, as many of the pastors have, then you're going to think erroneously that, well, gee, the communist revolution is to redistribute the wealth, so the super capitalists wouldn't want it. No, that's where you've been sucker punched. The communist, socialist, Marxist revolution is an invention. It's the primary strategy of the international banking families and the globalist elite, because it gives them the cover, deception, it gives them the cover to dominate, rape, and pillage any nation. And so that's just what's happening in America. You have the collective sucker punch developed or being executed by the mainstream media, telling the people lies like there will be social justice, there will be free health care for everybody, the wealth will be equally distributed, all the monies will be shared, there won't be any filthy rich 1%, you can have any job you want, and on and on and on and on. And you'll have social justice and fair wealth redistribution, and there'll be great jobs. And essentially, they paint a deceptive picture of paradise on earth. But the problem is, there is not one communist, Marxist, socialist nation in which even remotely have any of these promises come to true. In fact, the opposite has happened. They have all brought in bloody dictatorships from which there is no return. So what is our challenge right now? Our challenge right now with whatever free media and free technology there is. Our challenge right now is to communicate, educate as many people as we can, as fast as we can, as long as the doors are open. First, winning souls for Jesus Christ as Lord. Second, making disciples of all nations. Third, occupying until Christ comes. But then we're called to teach a biblical worldview. That's what making disciples of all nations means. So that means we need to penetrate the church, penetrate all areas of society, and communicate the truth effectively so that our fellow believers in Jesus Christ and the pastors, etc., are educated enough biblically to understand what's really going on. And then we need to educate our common man. This is of huge evangelistic consequence and a huge consequence in Bible prophecy. Because you see, before Christ returns, he wants to save as many people as he can. Why? Because God is love. So Jesus Christ tells us, his disciples, he tells us, the church, that we are to go into all the world and preach the gospel. We're to win souls for Jesus Christ. And how do we win souls to Jesus Christ? Well, we recognize that what Jesus Christ said to us was that the fields are white for harvest, but the laborers are few. There's not that many Christians willing to go out there and win the harvest to Christ. Now, the other thing is there are powerful forces of darkness, because we're at the end of the age. There are powerful forces of darkness that are far closer than you and I realize. They're far closer than you and I realize in putting down an iron fist of total global censorship where they dominate and control all information through big tech companies, through the mainstream media, etc., etc. And they have hundreds of ways they can do that. So, while the opportunity is available, we need to be good stewards and obey what the Lord has called us to do. This is the purpose of Paul McGuire Ministries and Paradise Mountain Church. I feel the call of God to shine the light of Jesus Christ faithfully in a dark culture. And the way we can do that is to be as effective as possible in communicating the gospel of Jesus Christ to as many people as possible, as we still can. So I'm inviting you to allow the Lord to put in your heart a burden for a last day's soul harvest before the return of Jesus, and partner with me in reaching people with the gospel effectively, understandably, as fast as we can. And you can do that by doing three simple things. Number one, choosing to become an intercessory prayer warrior for me, my family, and this ministry. And I thank you for doing that, for all of you who pray for me. The fruit of that is every day. I get letters and emails from people all over the world. Yesterday, we got correspondence from people in Brazil watching this program regularly. The day before that, we got contact from people in India who are watching and growing in the Lord by viewing this program in India. So it's all over the world, all over the United States. Now, the primary battle is spiritual, so I want to thank every one of you who have chosen to be spiritual warriors and spiritual partners with me in this ministry. I want to thank God for you. I want to thank God for those of you who distribute our programs far and wide yourself, because that's the only way we can do an end run around internet censorship. And you need to go to paulmcguire.us and recognize and write down and record what our other social media platforms are. I'm telling you, with the utmost urgency. And then finally, I want to thank God for all of you who simply go to the Lord in childlike faith and ask the Lord, Lord, what can I give Paul McGuire Ministries or Paradise Mountain Church financially in terms of donations or contributions? And just wait on the Lord, and whatever God tells you to do, whatever He puts on your heart, no matter how large, whether it's a medium amount or a small amount, the key is that you do whatever God tells you to do. And you're obedient. And you're blessed if you do that. And I'm not here to manipulate you. I'm not going to manipulate you. When God speaks to you, or if you go to God in prayer, that's between you and Him. But we do need funds to move aggressively through these doors of opportunity that we have at this time. So go to paulmcguire.us, that's paulmcguire.us, and also make sure you sign on and like all of our social media. The only reason in doing that is the numbers are rigged against many ministries. Okay, so they're not accurate. And one method of trying to create accuracy is if you take the time to sign, join, like, watch, or whatever, all of our social media. And find out what all of our social media is, because the day may come, not only regarding this ministry, but any ministry, poof, they're not where you think they are. And you need to know ahead of time where you can find us. God bless you. This is Paul McGuire, and this has been a prophetic emergency alert.